everyone, welcome back to PommyInOz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you are new around here, please drop a like, please drop a subscribe. It does help the channel out. We're smashing out likes. We're over 1900 now, so huge thank you to everyone. You can become a member of the channel. The legends in the comments below did. They're absolutely amazing people. They allow us to do things like sponsor Don McCoo and do the giveaways and stuff. If you are into your sports print and stuff, head on to Pommy Sports Almanac. Just had a shipment as well of merch. Merch is in there. The link is also in the description, along with the legends that I've subbed in there. So check them out. They're all super beans. And what we're doing today is we're talking about the Carlton game. Carlton have just come off the back of a victory in pre-season. Read into it as you will. 7-point win. And let's go through my thoughts on it. I mean, firstly, what I thought was evident, and I said this in my preview, that you'll know very early on if Voss has done anything with them. And I really enjoyed the structure around the ball and Carlton's willingness to retain possession under pressure. I was really impressed to see backward handballs and a willingness to take the game on in the right ways, not just blaze it forward under the cosh, which was really a staple of Carlton in the last 5 years. The first quarter, the third and the fourth, I was really impressed with their intensity around the ball, particularly when the ball hit the deck. I thought the forwards, the small forwards particularly, Dirds and Mr. Owens and Jesus as well. Can't really class him as a small, can we? But you know what I mean. The general forwards, they really look to put a bit of pressure on and hold it inside 50. And what I took out of that game is Jesus was quite a lot targeted in that centre-half forward role. In a real game, that's going to be Harry Mackay. And Jesus, phenomenal game. Really impressive. You've got to think structurally, Harry isn't a 4-5 grab type guy. There was quite a few spilled marks. And it got us into trouble at times around the ground. And I felt like when we looked at that, if you look at it objectively, because let's be honest, practice games are practice games. To talk about an ideology that I really understand on an intrinsic level, golf, if you're working on something on the practice ground, I remember hitting a high fade and learning that. On your practice rounds, when you go out there, you will hit a high fade every shot, even when you don't have to. You overemphasize the things you're not good at, so you become acclimatized to it. And that's what I look at practice games. Top teams, like, let's look at the Doggies. They lost to the Essendon. They shelved a lot of their stars, put a lot of game time into the next guys. Essendon are running away thinking they're playing finals, but the Doggies have got game time into players that probably won't play. First choice, learning their roles as the next in command. You work on the micros that get you wins. You can't practice winning. I hate hearing that. It's a ridiculous thing. You practice the processes that allow you to win. You only ever win in real life. You don't win in practice. You can't count them. So for me, what I took out this in a gist was there's a hell of a lot of positives over the negatives. Am I saying we're a grand final side? No, I'm not. What I'm saying is, though, what you saw out there is more than enough for you not to be worried about anything. And I'm going to talk about the 5-goal swings. This is one that has amused me in the comments. It really has. Like, with all that's going on in the Ukraine, what worries me is against bullies, you've got to be strong. And I look at Carlton forums and see full-grown adults shit the bed over panic. When you look at that 5-goal swing, right, look at it objectively. We know Melbourne last year, Goodwin mentioned that they shelved it and saw what their defence was under pressure. And the AFL media ran an article saying that Melbourne were in trouble. They didn't look in trouble, did they? They won the flag. I think what was really entertaining, whether that was a preordained plan because the structure did massively change. Carlton's kick to handball ratio was almost double, and it was the only time that it was that high, was in the second. I've got a feeling what Vossi will be really pleased with was seeing that happen and Carlton stick to their ball movement down back. And it felt like when they got to midfield, they just bombed it forward. Now, I'm not saying that that was a preordained plan because I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was. knowing that we were going to be massively under the cosh transition-wise. And 2 takeouts from them 5-goal swings that if you look at it, and I think you've got to look at this as a fan if that's in-game. One, Voss can't work on transition in-game. If he's trying stuff round 1, we're fucked. Because Teague did that and we were major fucked and he only tried one thing. What that taught him is that the boys are disciplined down the back, that they look to take the corridor on, that's what he wants to do. They look to move it short and look to run and stun. And they're brave enough to stick to the plan. You hear Melbourne and you heard Doggies last year, when they had tight games, all of their captains use this phrase, we believe in our system. That is belief in your system. And if Charlie wasn't taking the piss with outside of the boot goals, Carlton would have had 2 goals in between them 5-goal swings and stopped it. So for me, that says to me, they're all right. We'll know more next week. But part of getting out of trouble is if you stick to the process, you are fine. If you start panic buying, you're in trouble. And I saw a backline there that was willing to transition the ball in the manner in which Voss does. You look at Melbourne and you look at Richmond when they won the 4-peat. They were very proficient. Even when the shit hit the fan, they looked to attack. They looked to take the corridor on. They looked to play their game. And that is 9 times out of 10 got Richmond and Melbourne out of trouble. Especially in the granny. In the granny, when Dogs were manic, they backed their system in. And eventually that system won because you can't have manic pressure for 4 quarters. It's impossible. Now let's take a look at individual people. So I've spent about 6 hours doing this, watching it on slow-mo. So I'm confident it's 95% accurate. So let's have a look. So here we are. We have Adam, Cerra, and as you can see, 26 touches, 4 marks, 5 tackles and 2 goals. Real solid performance. And you can see what Cerra brings to Carlton Football Club is his ability to work both ends of the ground. You've got to remember that in 2020, God, that's so hard to say with the 2s, he was actually ranked top 10 in the wing in AFL. We need a wingman, and he did slot across there in his rest breaks, but his willingness to work both ends is a huge factor for Carlton. Real interesting fact about Adam Cerra is I've got him going at about 73% disposal efficiency, and 22 of his 26 touches were short handballs or kicks setting up traffic. This guy, I think, will be our playmaker, and I think you're going to see Walsh play a different role. And I'll tell you for why. Carlton brought out the 4 handball technique, which you see Melbourne do. And it is a handball in stoppage behind, to a carrier, to a runner, to someone on the outside in space. Invariably, that was Setterfield for Carlton and Kennedy this week. Their kicking isn't crash shot. In a real game, guess who that's going to be? Sam Walsh, and that's where you want him. You want him on the end of that ball because invariably he makes things happen. That really is an exciting avenue for Carlton because that means that kick that Fisher, Kennedy and Setterfield did end up getting on the end of will be going to Harry out as centre-half forward, making a great lead pattern. That is deadly and something that we should get excited about. And I don't think enough people are talking about that strategy that Carlton are displaying at the moment. Up next, we've got Paddy Cripps. Now, this is something else that excites me. That free with George Hewett allows Cripper to do this. And these numbers here are 2019 Cripps numbers. They are 2019 Cripps numbers, and I don't think anyone's giving enough kudos for it. I don't want to get too overexcited, but you've got to look at the evidence and analyse the evidence. What Cripper did phenomenally well in 2019 was the basics. The basics. And you look at Ollie Wines, he's going to be in an Ollie Wines situation. Ollie Wines didn't find a tag till round 9 the year just gone. Why? Because there was articles wrote about him that he was done. There was articles wrote about Cripper that was it. I mean, Ollie Wines that he was finished. That he wasn't quick enough to play in today's game. There was all that talk in Port that they were trying to redevelop his game. He went back to basics. And as he said in his interview after the Brownlow, that was a big Voss thing. Cripps is going to have the same thing. When you're Richmond, you're looking right now at Cerra. You're looking at Walsh. Cripps is probably third on your rank at the moment. Mistake. If Cripps starts doing that, and you saw when he took the game on, I don't mind him taking the game on in the avenue that he did. He took it on wisely, and he looked to handball it quickly. This new rule is going to benefit Cripps because it's going to encourage him to offload it quicker and faster. And I really enjoyed Cripps' game, because if these are the type of games we're going to see from Cripps, Carlton win football matches with Cerra and Walsh. And it's very akin to what Melbourne have. Phenomenal game from the skip. It's a great grounding as well. If this is his worst game, round one with ring rust, fuck me. That's all I'm going to say. It's a very accomplished performance. And as you can see, dominated around the ground. And he also went a little bit down back as well, which I like that. He looked to be that relief outlet, especially in them stoppages. This guy is someone we're going to talk about. He surprised me when I looked at the avenues. He is a beast. And one thing that stats don't correlate is his ability to create space around stoppages. I counted in the third quarter 5 shepherds that he did that allowed Cerra easy cheap ball. This guy is a beast. He loves the contest, and I love Ed Kerno was dropped, and this guy is now going to take the role. What is really interesting about him as well is his willingness to work both ends of the ground. That's something that Carlton don't have. They've signed 2 players that work very hard in both sections of the ground. And one thing is, if you go back and watch the second quarter, in defensive transition, this guy is the hardest running midfielder getting back to help. An absolute stoppage animal, this guy, that is going to allow better players to play. George Hewett's greatest gift is he lets good players play and stops opposition good players playing. And he finds the pill himself. And it's a very, very clever kick what he looks to do. He loved going in board. He loved retaining possession. And that is something Carlton don't do. We are horrific when the game is on the line and we're stressed at retaining possession. Ancient Eagles, right, when they won the flag, Melbourne last year, Richmond, one thing they have in common is when pressure comes, they hold the ball. They're willing to go backwards, and it requires balls of steel. It requires big kahunas. And George Hewett has got kahunas in abundance, man. Massive ones. Because he's willing to go back. A lot of times that chip kick, the handball 10 metres behind traffic to allow a kick, phenomenal work. This kid is our best recruit, in my opinion. Best recruit. Because he suits 2 massive plot holes that Carlton don't have. And someone that, if he can stay healthy and stay fit with that midfield, you can get excited. The next guy we're going to look at is Oscar Mcdonald. Mine and Terry's boy, a guy that we really do love. And as you can see from his heat map, he played predominantly down back, looking like the more full-back role. There was a moment of centre-half back when he went a bit more on Ben King. Really accomplished. And he's not a Jones replacement. He's not an intercept marker. And I'm glad he's not. Because top teams don't have 2 Keith defenders that intercept mark. They have one that does, and then they have a stay-at-home, and then they have a guy that floats. And Oscar Mcdonald allows Whittaker in to be that interceptor, and he allows another to come in. Is it Kemp? Is it Mitch McGovern? Who is it that's going to be that floating interceptor? And he does a phenomenal job. He's Audi baked beans. It ain't Heinz, but it's still fucking baked beans and goes grouse on toast. And I really enjoyed his game. What stats don't show is his ability to spoil as well. He doesn't go mark first. He goes safety first. And it allows Whittaker a lot more time to do what he does. This was a really understated game from Oscar Mcdonald. And for a guy that's probably one of 6 guys fighting for spots that aren't sewn up, I say he's nailed his role round 1. Guaranteed to be in it. It was really accomplished. He uses his body well. He reads the ball in flight well, and he knows the danger, which is really important. And I really enjoyed the fact he hasn't quite got the distribution that we remember Jones has, but he does do the simple things well. And this is a guy that I think will play 20 games for Carlton Football Club this year. I think he's got it sewn in. I think he's got everything that I enjoy about watching a defender. And it gives me that Harrison Petty vibe, Jake Lever vibe, May vibe, that does, because he's kind of our Petty. He isn't a spectacular defender. He hasn't got them spectacular things that everyone sings and dances about. It's just solid and tough to beat. And I like Oscar, and I trust him, And the final guy we're going to look at is your friend and mine, man with the best surname in AFL, Mr. Zac Williams. And this was a really solid game from Zac, and we saw what we paid for in this game because he gets everywhere. A lot of up the ground, a lot of handball receives, and real steady down the back as well. And he takes the game on and he looks to shoot forward with a little bit of energy. Really looked to be that conduit in transition along with his mate Sard. It looked like they split the halves up with them of doing that role, which is what they're going to have to do in game to stay fresh. And I really enjoyed his game. And Zac, for me, is built on this game. He's giving me something for me to get excited about moving forward. And it's there. It's a good body of work. I look at these practice games and think that this is probably the worst they're going to be because they should be building. If that's the worst we get from Zac Williams, it's better than the best we got last year. And he did look exciting. He did look to take the game on. Few loose kicks, but it's ring rust. And I really enjoyed that game. I really enjoyed it. And I think it's a real solid game from Zac Williams. So all in all, that's it then. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Obviously, don't get too excited, but obviously don't poo-poo it. It's a practice game, man. You know what I mean? If you're building Audi furniture, the worst thing you want is someone coming around and telling you doing it wrong. You'll fix it yourself. So I think there's a lot more positives. There's something to work with for the first time in a practice game. And let's be honest, that is the best Carlton have played in a practice game in the terms of consistency for a long time. So that's my thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you thought. And until next time, Pom out.